and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'll be doing a 2024 election prediction between AOC and Mike Pence. I'm going to start by among all of AOC's safe states: Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Colorado will probably be safe. I think that in a state like Colorado should probably be average with the Hispanic Latino vote, but Pence won't get enough rural turnout. They might do better in the suburbs. For his safe states: Utah, Idaho, Wyoming. If I can label anything, what is going on? Montana, I meant to hit Idaho right there, but whatever. All of Pence's safe states. For AOC's likely states: New Mexico, Virginia, Maine at large. Can I click anything? Nebraska's first in Minnesota. In New Mexico, she has enough support with the Hispanic Latino vote, to be able to be decent there. I think they're both pretty weak with the oil worker, like the working class vote, so it probably wouldn't be a whole lot of working class turnout. In Minnesota, AOC is going to get enough turnout from Minneapolis, and there's going to be hardly any turnout, or there's not going to be a whole lot of working class turnout. Nebraska's first, or Nebraska's second, sorry, not first. AOC is going to be strong enough in the suburbs. I don't know if she's going to be amazing in the suburbs, but she's going to be strong enough, especially as they continue to shift to the left. In Virginia, she's strong enough in the D.C. suburbs, and Pence is weak enough in the rural areas. Maine at large, pretty inelastic. I see Pence probably being better with Trump, or better than Trump with the white rural college-educated vote, but probably still will go to AOC likely. For Pence's likely states, he gets Nebraska's first, Kansas, Texas, South Carolina, Iowa, Ohio, Maine second, and Alaska. In Kansas, I don't see Pence getting enough rural turnout. I see the suburbs shifting enough away from him. I could see easily being safe because I could see a lot of these very conservative states enough Pence getting enough anti-AOC rural turnout, that it's safe just because he's going to get so much rural turnout against AOC. Texas, I think, is going to get enough anti-AOC rural turnout to keep it likely, like barely likely. Probably narrow it up even more, like 5.2 as opposed to like 5.6. AOC, I don't see if they shifted away from Biden, with the Hispanic and Latino vote. If they shifted away from Biden in 2020, I don't necessarily see them shifting towards AOC. With a candidate like Mike Pence, maybe, but could honestly just see a lot of Hispanic and Latino voters not turning out. And AOC isn't amazing in the suburbs, or isn't amazing in the suburbs. In South Carolina, Pence is really weak for the rural vote. I don't see AOC turning out a whole lot of black voters though. So it'll probably be like a similar margin of victory, maybe R plus 10, maybe a little narrower, just because Pence can turn out less rural voters. In Alaska, I don't know that they're both pretty weak with the oil worker vote. Whereas, we're going to see more and more Native American voters turning out at higher rates, especially as they would probably have a larger share of the electorate, or they would have a fairly large share of the electorate. And they're probably just going to favor the Democrats, just because, or we're probably going to see them favoring the Democrats. In Iowa, I see Pence getting less rural turnout. I see him getting less working class turnout. But I don't know that he's going to get not enough. I think that there's going to be enough anti-AOC turnout. It's probably going to narrow up. I think the entire Rust Belt is probably going to narrow up. It's not necessarily going to shift to the left or shift to the right. I think that most of it is actually going to narrow up, which is strange. But I think most of it's probably going to narrow up. In Ohio, very similar thing, except for there are more large cities in Ohio, or more cities, in general, I guess. You have Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, which are all fairly large cities, and you have, Toledo and Dayton, which are, I guess, like, average, or not average, they're like medium, small-ish size cities. So AOC is probably going to try to retain enough turnout from those cities to narrow it up. Maine second, it's going to be a similar thing, except for it's going to be a lot more like Iowa, probably, except for the less working class presence. I'm not sure. I'm not certain if the working class makes up a whole lot of the electorate in Maine second. I would assume that they probably do, considering the fact that Trump shifted it by very similar margins to states like Iowa and Ohio and like the Rust Belt where the working class had a significant presence. And Nebraska is first. Um, I mean, I don't see Pence being amazing for the rural vote, not turning out enough rural voters. He's going to he could get enough anti-AOC turnout, and he could do well enough in the suburbs if he carries it. Honestly, it could be likely, could be safe. For AOC's lean states, she gets Nevada, Michigan, and New Hampshire. In Nevada, um, Pence is not going to turn out enough rural voters, or she's going to retain enough of the Hispanic and Latino vote. Michigan, a lot of this Rust Belt's kind of weird. We're likely going to see a lot less of the working class turnout and a lot of the rural voters not turning out. AOC is going to get less turnout from like Detroit. She's probably going to slightly worse with the black vote, but not as like the difference between her and Biden with the black vote and her and Biden in a lot of these bigger cities, as opposed to Pence and Trump with rural voters and working class voters, is significantly smaller. Yes, she's probably going to do worse than Biden or get less turnout at least, but Pence is going to get even less turnout. It's making sense in my head. I'm hoping that I'm explaining this in like a way that actually makes sense. Essentially, the working class is going to turn out at. They're both going to turn out lower rates, but they're going to the rate that the working class is going to turn out is going to be, or the difference between the working class turnout, or the working class is going to turn like the difference between the working class turnout in 2020 and the working class turnout in 2024 is going to be larger than the difference between the working class turnout in 2020, or than urban turnout and a lot of these bigger cities, and particularly black voters in 2020 and 2024 in like Detroit and the Rust Belt. I'm just saying Detroit because I'm specifically looking at Michigan right now. Will probably be smaller. I'm trying to find a way to make this make sense. Hopefully it does. So it'll probably, but Pence might improve in the suburbs. Overall, it'll probably be, still a lean margin victory for AOC. In New Hampshire, I just see Pence probably being slightly better for white rural college educated voters. For Pence's lean states, he has Florida. Actually, he doesn't have Florida. He doesn't have any, actually. He does get Florida tilt though. So Florida's the first tilt state. I mean, like he's not amazing in the suburbs. He's probably gonna be strong enough, but we're probably gonna see hardly any Hispanic and Latino turnout. I could see Pence doing well with the Hispanic and Latino vote because he gets enough anti-AOC turnout, which is weird. Someone like Pence doing well with the Hispanic and Latino vote, but it is a possibility. Next tilt state, let's just go right above it to Georgia. Pence, I mean, like AOC, it's a very similar thing as Michigan. AOC is going to get less turnout in Atlanta, but Pence is going to get like significantly less turnout from the rural vote. He might do slightly better in the suburbs. I don't see him doing very well with minorities in the suburbs of Atlanta. So it'll probably narrowly go to AOC. I'm not saying, like obviously narrowly it's going to be tilt, but probably I could see her improving on Biden's margins. For Pence's, I guess in North Carolina, it is tilt to Pence. I mean, like if AOC were stronger with the black vote against someone like Pence, it could be tilt to her. It could be. It would be hard. With someone like AOC, I mean, like in North Carolina, it is somewhat hard. I mean, like, if she were better at the black vote, it could be narrower. She'd probably still lose it. She'd also have to be better in the suburbs. Because, I mean, like, looking at this, Pence is going to get less rural turnout, yes. There's going to be significantly less working class turnout, yes. She's not great with the black vote, and Pence is probably better than her in the suburbs. Or at least he's better than Trump in the suburbs, and she's not exactly amazing in the suburbs. So it would be hard, but I just see it going to Pence regardless. I don't see if it was him against somebody with lots of support with like the black vote, someone like Stacey Abrams, but someone really good in the suburbs, someone like a liberal Mitt Romney, I could see it going to the Democrats, or just someone with like it's some mixture of that, or maybe lots of working class turnout or working class support and less support in the suburbs and with the black vote, but I don't see AOC having that really. In Let's just go to Arizona. I'm gonna give it to Pence by a tilt margin. So in Arizona, AOC I don't see doing significantly better than Biden with the Hispanic and Latino vote. Whereas Pence is going to do significantly better in the D.C. suburbs. In the traditionally conservative suburbs. if you're against someone who wasn't, if he was against someone like obviously Joe Biden, but like even like Kamala Harris, I could see it going to her. But against someone like AOC, she is a progressive, and I don't see traditional conservatives being able to vote for. And I could see them, a lot of traditional conservatives who voted for Trump in 2016 but then flipped to Biden. I could see them stomaching Pence. If they couldn't stomach Trump, um, I could see a lot of them being able to stomach Pence. He's like Trump, but first off chiller, second off more or he not say chiller, less polarizing, I guess. He's not as or he I feel like he would have I think that Trump would not really care about losing traditional conservatives in Arizona, whereas Pence would make an effort to win traditional conservatives in Arizona. Um, Trump is definitely more polarizing than Pence. I don't necessarily want to say less chill. I mean, like, obviously Pence. I mean, like, Pence isn't exact. Like Pence is definitely very chill. He's like, I LTE always. It's kind of funny because LTE is always like he's just so monotone. Like it's true. Pence is a pretty boring candidate. If I'm being honest, but I think that's actually pretty good in the Arizona suburbs where someone like Trump, who's gonna yes be exciting for like the working class, he's gonna be more controversial, more polarizing. I guess is probably the better way to say it. And he is not gonna do very well in Arizona suburbs, whereas Pence will probably do better. Being once again less polarizing. Before Trump, he was more of a traditional conservative. And like he obviously still is, but he's also Trumpist, kind of Trumpist. But I don't see AOC having enough appeal to them, and I don't see AOC having enough appeal to the Hispanic and Latino vote, or improving, I guess, on Biden's margin enough. In these two final Rust Belt states, they both narrowly go to AOC. I know it's strange to see AOC carrying these states, but or it can be, but in Wisconsin, they're just knocking out like Republicans like Pence. They're knocking out to get enough working class turnout. Where the Democrats like AOC, they're going to be able to keep enough voters turning out in Milwaukee. I think she's not going to be strong, like very great with the black vote. Obviously, Pence is really bad for the black vote. She's going to retain enough voters in there, like area. Pennsylvania, very similar thing, slightly to the left. Um, ow! I just closed hand sanitizer like on my stomach. It's a very similar deal in Pennsylvania. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please comment your suggestions down below, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.